Hey fam, it's Kinsley. I have a very special announcement to make today. Speaking at Sleep Summit 2025, the bad boy of bedding himself, the CEO of Bedgear, Eugene Alletto. So in honor of making this announcement, and I hope you bought tickets because a bunch of you waited till the very last day for the early bird special, but you got them. And we'll be doing some fun stuff along the way to make sure that you can get connected. But as you are thinking about attending Sleep Summit 2025, October 14th, through 17th in beautiful Bentonville, Arkansas, I want you to listen to this episode where Eugene brings his very unique perspective on business and life and his unique philosophies to the surface. It was our most popular episode of all of 2024, and we're so grateful to Bedgear and to Eugene Alletto and to the entire team for speaking at this year's Sleep Summit 2025. Grab your tickets now, buckle up, enjoy this podcast, and we'll see you here every Monday.
In the mattress world, a no at checkout means a lost sale. That's where American First Finance comes in. We help you say yes to more customers, even if their credit isn't perfect. With fast setup, tailored solutions, and support every step of the way, you're not just offering a way to pay. You're inviting them to Yesville, where more people get approved and customers can take home the mattress they need today. Visit AmericanFirstFinance.com to get started.
For the first time ever, top retailers can introduce the mattress that's been locked away inside of one of America's top mattress retailers until now. Introducing Prana Sleep, the ultimate luxury mattress collection designed by lifelong sleep industry leaders who set out to create the best sleep experience imaginable at any cost. Born from decades of industry expertise and real-world retail feedback, Prana Sleep doesn't just sell mattresses, it sells satisfaction, loyalty, and premium performance. Now, Prana Sleep is awarding these unparalleled products to a select group of top-tier retailers. Proudly made in the USA, Prana Sleep mattresses are handcrafted in private factories by top-tier craftspeople, ensuring exceptional quality and detail. What sets Prana Sleep apart? 100% natural materials, luxury latex, and the only machines in the world that quilt latex directly into the top panel for a one-of-a-kind, indulgent feel. Stand out in the marketplace with a mattress line engineered for luxury and crafted for those who demand the best. Your competition will hate selling against Prana Sleep because nothing compares. Prana Sleep, bring the secret to success into your stores today. Go to pranasleep.com now to apply. Did you know that 86% of customers buy from the first business that responds? And if you text back very quickly, that number jumps to over 90%. That's why Podium's AI employee, Jerry, is a game changer. Jerry never sleeps, never takes a lunch break, and never puts in a 2-week notice. He's always on, responding in seconds, so you never lose a lead again. Turn missed calls into texts, capture more leads, and close more deals, all with Podium. Want to see how it works? Get a demo today at podium.com/fam. Podium, because speed wins sales.
Welcome to the FAM Podcast with Mark Kinsley. This is where the best in the bedding business get even better.
Welcome to the FAM Podcast. I'm so honored to have my friend Eugene Alletto here on the show. Eugene, I have to start with something. Where did this term, the bad boy of bedding, come from? And is it true?
Well, yes, we all have a bad side, right? If you've ever been interested in like Marvel comics, there's always a dark side to Batman or Superman. So, I think having a dark side and a good side, and that fight between good and evil is probably in all of us at times. Where I got the term was a bunch of years ago when we started Bedgear. We did everything opposite of the industry, and it was coined by someone in our industry that, he's just the bad boy of bedding. It was tongue in cheek, and it kind of stuck. So, yep, that's my nickname. So let's see if I can, maybe at my old age, maybe I can overcome it.
Well, hey, let's go there for a minute. So if you got called the bad boy because you were doing things that were so different, What made you, when you were starting Bedgear, do things differently? Was it because the industry was broken and you saw a way to fix it? Was it because I just want to be different, so I'm going to try and be different to stand out? What led you down that path?
So I have, I grew up with immigrant parents, and we were taught to always give more than you receive. Be additive, don't be disruptive. So I have never in my life ever wanted to fix anybody or fix anything. I just believe that if you're going to be additive in life, you can't be the same, you can't do the same things, and then just try to take someone else's stuff just because you're cheaper or you're nicer or you're going to take them to a nicer dinner. So I've always tried to find a way to sell being more additive. What can I bring to the retailer? What can I bring to a consumer that they're not getting somewhere else? So it really wasn't, I didn't set out to be the bad boy of bedding. I didn't set out to fix a broken industry. I just felt like there was opportunities to do things differently and bring things to the industry that they haven't really been paying attention to. And it's really, Mark, it was connecting the dots, right? So to give you just an overview is that if you really think about the industry, we lay people down on their backs when there's 68% of them sleep on their sides. We have them stand up when stores were still in business like Bed Bath & Beyond to go buy a pillow. And we put sheets and protectors and comforters on a bed that overheat the customer, where we now have to make mattresses to try to cool them down. Like, we do everything independent of each other. And that's where I saw the opportunity to be additive and to connect the dots.
So it was almost looking at the experience and saying, it seems obvious that you wouldn't do it that way. I'm going to suggest this way and build products around that.
Correct. So we always start with the consumer and the products in mind. We're all retail salespeople here at our company. That's where, most of us built our careers early on. And we understand the dance between the consumer and products when they come in the store. And other than promotion and price, product is king. Like today, people always say, it's promotion, price, and product. I always believe that product is king. And in fact, to this day, product is what I now call the given. Like, everybody's got good product. The challenge is nobody knows how to coordinate it all to create a sleep environment that's healthy for the consumer. So we all hack away at it in bits and pieces. And when I was working retail on the weekends trying to, launch a furniture manufacturing career, what I noticed was everything was like add-on. Well, I want to add on this and I want to add on that, or this is an accessory. Words are pretty powerful. When you tell someone it's an accessory, it may not be something I need today. Like when a woman puts on an accessory like an earring or a necklace, it makes the dress, but they may decide not to buy that today, or they may decide to change the accessory. But it's not a necessity, it's a nicety. And if I was to tell you from an accessory to, if I called it an essential, like a bedding essential, which is what we call Bedgear product, this is an essential to a good night's sleep. Now, all of a sudden, there's value in the word essential. So I think a lot of the words we use in the industry are old and cliche. I think a lot of our processes and how we take the customer through that journey are a little bit disconnected. And I also felt like we all buy from the same foam manufacturers, the same cover manufacturers, and we build birthday cakes in different layers, and there's no innovation. Not because nobody wants innovation, but we talk about innovation. When you look at the product, it's not that innovative. Like, we're still putting foam and springs together. And to me, it cried for somebody to be different. It cried for someone to be not bad, but let me be additive. Let me bring some new ideas, some fresh ideas to the industry, and then let me work on the selling proposition and the wording and the visuals to help the retailers see how they can be successful with this. Because we looked like we came from Mars when we showed up. So that's sort of like how we got the bad boy of bedding. It's not really like we're bad, but it's different, and you gotta either like different or not, right?
You were talking about how words are powerful, and you were using different language. And from many retailers out in the wild, I've heard that Bedgear has one of the best training organizations in this industry and maybe beyond. Was that developed because your background was a salesperson? And if so, How did you develop that? And then how do you continue it? And how do you scale that? Because it's not easy to be consistent with that training and get that to cascade down all the way to the RSA when they're talking to a consumer.
Yeah. You know, it's always the reverse. Like you wish you knew the end state, because you would be so much smarter when people asked you how you did stuff. You could have asked me that 30 years ago. I wouldn't have been able to answer it. But when I look back at my life, you definitely manifest your outcome. The way I came from nothing. When I tell you nothing, like our house was being foreclosed on. My dad passed away when I was 15 going on 16. I was the oldest of 4 children. My sister was literally just turning 3 years old. And, you know, my mom taught me right from the front. I mean, she sits behind me here in a picture, not in ashes, but in a picture, because I'm Irish, so we have a bit of a weird sense of humor. But my 4'11" mother, she was tough as nails. And when my dad passed away, literally we picked up and kept moving. Like she made it very clear we're not going to be victims. And why I bring this up to you is because when we were younger and learning how not to be a victim and always do what I do today, it all came back when I was, 15 years old and remembering the journey that I was on. I look back now, I'm like, now I know why I do these things. So when you ask about education, it's the single most important thing, and it's the first thing that gets cut by every major retailer and every major manufacturer. When things get tough, people try to cut back on advertising and they cut back on education. And those companies typically suck wind and either go out of business or they're the last ones to come out of the recession. We double down on both. We spend more money on advertising than anybody in our category, right? Nobody spends money advertising any brand of pillow sheets and protectors. Now we have mattresses thanks to pillow sheets and protectors. But we actually spend money on advertising. Well, if I spend money on education, it's equally as important, because if I drive traffic to a store or I drive awareness to the category and our retail salespeople are not in a place where they can actually talk about the product intelligently, I waste my money on advertising to drive to retail. So we had no choice. But when I look at my career 30 years ago, what differentiated me wasn't my personality. I wasn't even able to buy drinks for people. I wasn't 21 when I started on the road, right? I couldn't rent a car. My first employee I hired, her name is Linda Baker. She's still here 31 years later. She's finally going to retire part-time. And her number one reason for being hired, and she'll tell you this if you ask her, is I couldn't rent a car and I couldn't buy a drink for a buyer. So I used to go travel with her because I couldn't do both. Now, what gave me the right to win wasn't my personality. It was actually my education. I poured my weekends, every weekend, Saturdays or Sundays. I always picked one day, and I would travel to retailers and I would talk to the salespeople, and I trained them on leather. I trained them on fabric. I trained them on case goods. And the coaching network, or the coaching tree that I created, is what I now, you go to stores, they know me in Florida, California, because people move. Retail salespeople move all over the country. And when they're like, wait a minute, I remember you used to sell leather. You had Leather Trend, you had Brookwood Upholstery, you had Legacy, you had and so all of that education is what propelled my entire career. That was my calling card. So it was natural for me. I didn't know this until you asked the question, but it was natural for me to have an education built in to Bedgear's, future state. And so I just had to go find some rock stars, people that are passionate about educating and don't want to be salespeople. Because the problem in all these companies is they always tie it back to sales and they don't keep it clean. I have totally separate education department and sales department, and they report to me independently. As opposed to having my education department report into my VP of sales, it always gets muddied up. I want them to work pure education. And it was a necessity because I had a unique product, I had a unique value proposition, and I had to manifest how the consumer was going to actually embrace our product. But I couldn't leave that to just advertising. I couldn't leave that to a retail salesperson who thinks I'm from Mars. I had to really dedicate the time to education and training. So it was a long answer to a short question, but it's been going on my entire life. Like, education is everything, right?
So if you're spending those weekends, one day during the weekend, every weekend, going out, educating yourself, and then turning that education into training. And I've heard that one of the best ways to learn is to teach. It sounds like you were out teaching people. Whenever you were selling leather and those other products, like we said at the very beginning of this podcast episode, you were making over $1 million a year as a salesperson. And I can just imagine, as people hear this, maybe they're driving in their car, running on their treadmill. If they're making $1 million a year, they're never going to leave that job. So many people. So paint a picture for us. When was the moment, or what was the moment, or what was the tipping point where you decided, I'm going to leave a job where I'm making multiple years in a row, by the way, over $1 million a year, and I'm going to start my own company, and I'm going to start a company that is in this category with this product? Walk us through it.
Yeah. Again, it actually still gives me chills. And, just when you phrase it that way, I'm not going to lie, like, it makes me very emotional to think of my journey coming from literally nothing to making $1 million. So it's a lot of money today, right? Like, when I worked retail sales and I worked wholesale sales and I worked 80, 90 hours, which I do today, but just in a different capacity, I can honestly tell you that optimizing your time as a salesperson is everything. And how I was able to do it was I optimized my time. Salespeople don't create business plans. They just sell. And if they're a $1 million writer or 2 million or 3 million, they could still make more money if they actually had a business plan for the million or 2 million or 3 million. So walking you through it, like, literally, I mean, I remember the first customer. I remember the first sofa that I sold. Like, I could spend an hour just on that question, but to give you and the audience a bit of an understanding, I didn't even have money for a car. I borrowed my girlfriend's father's extra car. It was a Park Avenue Buick. It was in the 70s, so you know the size of that car and the gas. I'll give you one stupid story. So I was on 3rd Avenue in the Bronx, calling on K. Rose Furniture, right? The best Dominican food you've ever seen in your life. It's teeming with people. If you've never been to the Bronx as a salesman, like, I was literally, at this point, I was 23 maybe, and it was like boom boxes and people, selling shit on the streets, and I'm navigating, and I found a spot right in front of K. Rose. I was like 3 car lengths. I was so excited because sometimes you got to park in like shitty areas, and God forbid the car has a busted window or a blown out tire, or the car's gone. Not even my car. So I drive there. I pull all my shit out of the car, and I go into K. Rose Furniture. I almost remembered his name. And he was a big deal he was next to another big store. You could spend like all day on 3rd Avenue, by the way, back in the day. So I get in the store. I'm so excited. I got a spot. I get out of the car. I pull all my stuff out of this big trunk, all my swatches. I bring them into the store. I'm there for like 2.5 hours. I get a nice size order. I'm super excited. I come out to put my shit back in the trunk, and I can't find the keys. And I realize I left the car running for 2.5 hours on 3rd Avenue in the Bronx, where I normally try to like get a spike so I don't get the car stolen. But meanwhile, it was not even touched, and it was running the entire time. So why I tell these dumb stories is because the humble beginnings are critical to your success. Like, understanding all of that and like where you came from and never forgetting that is what propels me to this day. So my journey was kind of crazy. So I was doing wholesale furniture, and I got it to a pretty good scale in terms of the customer base, the types of products. And my first understanding, it was like, there's a lot of stuff you got to be able to do when you're doing big volume. So in addition to hiring Linda for her license and for her ability to buy drinks, I turned her into customer service. So I had her taking all the phone calls, writing all the orders. I would write stuff on loose leaf paper and bring it home to her, and then she'd do it and deal with the factories. And then we got into selling containers from Mexico, and then Mexico moved to China. So I learned all about how to move factories from one facility to another. So she was cubing out all the containers for Macy's, because Macy's at the time didn't even know how to cube containers. I was selling Macy's literally containers worth of case goods, and we were doing all the cubing on a spreadsheet and sending it to the buyer. So that's how we got all this velocity going. And what I would do is, like, Linda, who then hired an assistant because we had so many orders, I'm like, Linda, I'm not good at this shit. Like, I don't want to be involved in all the operation stuff. I'm good at selling and telling stories. So I literally got on the road and I would just go and do sales training 6 days a week. And I would go see the buyer and then I just go to the floor. And so why is that? Like, that's when I'm sleeping, this is how I thought about it. It's like, if I can get all these salespeople to understand my product and how to position my product to the consumer, I can go to bed or I can hang out with my kids on a Saturday or a Sunday and they're going to go out and sell for me like it's my stuff while I'm hanging out on my day off. Like, who wouldn't dedicate time to a retail salesperson who's crushing it, killing themselves, working nights and weekends? Like, I did that. It's freaking hard, right? So they deserve the effort you put into them. And the best part is when you do it, when you take the gas off and you're home relaxing for a day, you're still making money because someone's selling your shit every single day. So that's how I was able to do so much volume over the time. Now, you tell me to walk away from that, you want to talk about scary? But it took another amazing people in my life. My customers, my retail customers said, every line you get, you build the line, you build the line, you build the line. Why don't you do this for yourself? Like, you're a great sales guy, you're a good business person. What are you doing? And so it resonated with me. And when I started playing with mattress protectors and so forth, then believe it or not, I was selling mattress protectors. And then Shayna Roshalu, some of the people might know Shayna. She was the buyer at Levitt's Furniture, and Levitt's went out of business. And at the same time that Levitt's went out, I had Fortunoff, Stearns Department Store, Macy's filed Chapter 11. Like, everything came crushing down. I said, look, don't take a job. I don't have any money at the moment because you guys basically stole all our money because I had to give back from the commissions that I earned. But you seem like you're really smart, and I would love to talk to you. I'd like to understand your background. So she came in. She said to me, look, I don't need a job right now. I'm looking for an opportunity. And you seem to have really good access. Now, I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, access? I have no idea what that even meant. She goes, no, you have access. People know, you know people. I just, let me see what you do. And she actually saw my mattress protectors that I call wee-wee pads that I was selling to sleepies. We were selling $10+ million of mattress protectors, like going out of style. And she's like, why don't you sell these to other customers? I said, well, we're making money. It's good. Like, leave it alone. It's easy. No big deal. She's like, no, I think people, you make really cool product. You can sell these to other people. So it was her idea to like extend beyond. She's like, look, I'm not going to take a job with you, but let me check some stuff out. So long story short is, between the person telling me, my retailer, what are you doing? Like, why do you keep building other furniture companies? Why not go do something on your own? Now I have Shayna. She's willing to work for nothing, zero money, right? You think I'm crazy? She took zero. She had enough money to survive for a year. And she's like, I'm going to chill out, see what you got going on. And, like now 15 years later, we've been running this thing together. So what I would tell you is, be conscious of the conversations you have with people, that you sometimes blow off their comments, because all of those comments led to Bedgear and all of those connections. So it was hard to give up the money, but it wasn't so hard after all when I look back at what I gave up and what I now have today. So it's a little bit of a long answer to all of your questions, but I hope that gives you a little bit of an understanding of what people probably don't know about me.
So were you able to transition out of your existing business and over time let the leather, the case goods, all of that go as you ramped up Bedgear?
Yeah. So the nice thing is, I was an independent rep. So it wasn't like I was working for somebody. I was just, given a bag of tricks and I was still selling stuff. So I had a bit of a backlog. This is a funny story, but Legacy Classic Furniture, I was one of the four guys that left another company to start Legacy Classic. They're still in business. And I got a scary call from Kevin O'Connor from China saying, look, it was Master Design at the time. We're not going to make it. I'm like, what do you mean we're not? I worked for Master Design. We're going to go bust because there was some embezzlement between funds and so forth. And the company was going to go out of business. He goes, I'm going to go see the supplier. It was Lacquercraft, which is a big company today. Samuel Kuo, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. Him and his wife, Grace, run a company called Lacquercraft. They now own Universal, Craftmaster, and other brands. Really good friends, super nice people. And he's like, I'm going to go talk to them and see what we can do. So he was able to get some funding. It was private. We didn't tell people this, but it was Samuel's money. He's like, you guys go do your thing. So Kevin called me from China again the next night. He goes, okay, I got a backer. Now we need business. So I literally called Sandy Morell, who was the buyer at Macy's. We were working on some products. I said, Sandy, everything we've been working on and building, it's going to go away next week. You're going to hear about it. We already found a solution. He's like, I trust you. I love you. You know what you're doing. Just show me what it is. We'll get going. So Macy's became our first customer. Raymour's joined us, and the list goes on, right? So I became like the big sales guy because that's what I do. But I got involved with product development. I spent time. I brought Macy's for the first time over to China. Like literally, Sandy Morell, in 30 years of his life, never been to China. I bring him to China to go look at the product, and so I had this amazing, reputation, and I had an amazing relationship with Legacy. So they let me put my guard master at the time. I hired a woman named Leslie Fulmer, who's now Leslie Clay. She's our VP of sales for USA to this day. And I said, Leslie, you sit down here in the Legacy Classic showroom. Here's the closet. This is the Bedgear closet. I put all my shit in the closet in the showroom, and I would take the customers that I was selling furniture to, and I would hand them off to Leslie. And these people are like, wait a minute, I'm buying dining rooms and bedrooms. Now you're having me buy pillows? I'm like, yeah, just shut up, sit down, and I promise you're going to make good money. And so Leslie would work the customer on our side showroom, and I was just hustling and bustling as I was transitioning out of furniture and into bedding. So it was a smooth transition. Clearly, I wasn't making the money for several years after I left completely. It took years to build it, but it wasn't like I was broke and didn't have any options to pay my bills. So that's how I transitioned it. And I would tell you, Mark, that most of us listening to this podcast, there are a shit ton of verticals that are close to what you're already doing today, like what you're transitioning from, like right, running a mattress brand as a CEO, being a marketing guy at Liggett and Platt. Like you haven't gone that far off the range. Like you're now doing the FAM, you're doing your Sleep Summit, your Dream Camp, but you're trading within the same comfort zone. So all of us have a tendency not to go off doing some crazy thing. It's typically within similar verticals that are somewhat similar to what we've done in our past. So this wasn't too far off of what I've known, right? Make sense?
It does make sense. We're talking with Eugene Alletto, the CEO of Bedgear. I put an emphasis on the T there. Eugene, for those that don't know you, when they first meet you, you're probably not gonna tell them something that most people don't know. But even for those who know you, what is something that you believe that most people might not believe, or something that you believe that others might not know?
Something I believe that others might not know about myself specifically, or just life in general?
Give us life in general.
Yeah. So, I mean, off the cuff, I would tell you that in life, I think people really don't recognize how similar we all are. I've been fortunate now to travel to many countries. We're in 31 countries, or close to it, with Bedgear. And I sit with Jews, Muslims, Christians, African Americans, Turkish people, Asian people. None of us ever give a crap about anything other than trying to figure out how to do business with each other. And I get invited to homes. I'm sitting, like, just got back from Turkey last week, hanging out. Someone brings his wife with a hijab on, where she's smiling and happy, and we're breaking bread, and we're enjoying each other's company, and nobody is like gives a shit like who they are, what they do. There's no like stress about what they represent. And I'm sitting there, and I get back on the airplane. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with the human race? Like, what are we looking to pick at of our differences when we share so much in common? Like, we do the same shit. Other than the food is different, other than the fact that she covers her hair, or other than the fact that, the Asians want to do gumbe, which is like, the drinking game. It's the same thing as like bottoms up. Like, everybody does the same shit, but we try to figure out how to separate ourselves. And we then allow, governments, and we allow religion, we allow races, and we allow stupidity and lack of education to get in the way of a good conversation. And it just bothers the shit out of me. So I would tell you that I would try to wake people up to realize that if you spent more time like figuring out what you have in common as opposed to what you don't, you'd be amazed at how much easier life would be, right? So that would be the one life observation I've been carrying for the last 30 years. And I finally feel like I can talk my mind. You know, there's enough crazy people out there today on both sides of that conversation that allow me now to just have a voice that I think is now considered reasonable, right? So that would be my one go-to thing.
I just want to put a double red underline there, because it was one of the greatest gifts of the past 5 years for me, was being able to spend time with my international licensees. And I remember in the very beginning, you know, you have a little bit of language barrier, and I'm very intensely trying to understand what somebody's saying. And that was such a wonderful process, because I was intensely trying to understand what somebody was saying. But deep down, I was understanding who they were as a human being. And through that process, the language gets easier to understand. The conversations go to family and the things you're interested in. And everybody wants you to come to their country and stay in their homes. And it was one of those things in the beginning where if you get out there and you ask those questions, like you said, and you spark a conversation, it's just an absolute gift. And we are so similar as human beings. And navigating it from our perspective, from this industry perspective, we're all interested in sleep in some way. We all sleep.
Totally.
And it became a great foundational conversation.
It really has. In fact, maybe I just thought of this. Why are we not inviting to the Sleep Summit in your dream camp? We should look at a list of some internationals and have them come and participate. It'd be a great opportunity for the American retailers and manufacturers to get a sense of others and even bring that to our industry and let's start a groundswell of like, we're all the same, man. Like, get over it already. Get over it.
So far, we have Canada, we have Mexico, we had Guatemala, but we need to get outside of Central and North America. And yeah, every year I'll invite my international friends. And I think this year, we stand a chance. We need to get some Bedgear folks internationally to come as well.
Good idea.
Hey, Eugene, I have this question that bubbles up in my mind a lot. And it's around this idea of knowing what you know today, because you certainly are going to suffer the curse of knowledge, but knowing what you know today, if you were going to get into the mattress and sleep industry and you had access to capital, but you're starting today and you have to start fresh, what part of the business would you get into? What would you do?
So, you know, the easy answer is I would do the exact same thing, because that's what most of us say, right? Because it seems like the most convenient. But to me, I'll play the other side of that. I'll use the bad boy of betting side. So I would share that I think I'd get into the mattress game first, even though I did it through the other way. So now I'm in the mattress business through the pillow, sheets, and protectors. Now that I see what I see, the mistake that was made is that all of these DTC brands did not innovate product. They only innovated the way to get it to the home, bypassing the retailer. None of them made any good product, nor did anybody really make product. Not only that it wasn't innovative, but they didn't make any uniqueness to the product other than squeeze the shit out of it and put it in a box, which was done before them. But they were able to market it because they were young, digitally native, and they jumped in at the right time. But really, a lot of them, in fact, probably all of them, really haven't made any significant money doing it. And it became more disruptive than additive to our industry. The part that was additive is I think it got some of us off our dead ass to realize, like, oh shit, we better do something. So that might be the only bright spot to what they have accomplished. So looking at that, I would say mattresses, I would have worked with my retailer, not direct to consumer only. I would have done both up front, which is now what all these direct to consumer guys are doing. They're trying to get into retail. So clearly I would take the roadmap of where they're going. I would have created the brand with the retailers, had a better chance of making money earlier than flipping it from one investor to the next investor. And I think I would have been successful having the knowledge that I have today. So that would have been my entry point as opposed to what I did, which was much more difficult, taking a category that's been given away as an add-on and that had no value, and having to build that value by educating the retail salespeople, increasing the value of the product. All the things that we did was really, really hard to get any sort of velocity, just because I was fighting so many different barriers of entry. When everybody in our industry wants to sell mattresses, they don't want to sell pillow sheets and protectors. Things have changed a little bit. So I would tell you that would be my new thing if I was starting today, is I would build the brand with the retailers, and I would make sure that the product had a reason to win beyond just squeezing it in a box. And I think most DTC brands in what they're doing today would have changed their way of doing it and doing it that way. Because I think the retailer today is starving for innovation. The retailer today is starving for brands to mean something. And it's obvious when you look at Tempur Sealy and how significant they're doing compared to the industry, is because the rest of the industry truly has not figured out the cohesiveness between retail and direct to consumer. And so I think that's what I would give back in seeing what I see.
I want to tease that out a little bit, because I look at the landscape over the past, let's call it 5 to 8 years, and so many of the brands that have bubbled up into the consumer consciousness were started digitally native, because people are going online, they're searching for a product, and the mattress brands that show up first, hey, that's getting the time and the attention. And then the playbook has been, of course, they wanted to sell them directly, but then they got reviews, and those reviews got that consumer trust. And then that was able to be leveraged into brick and mortar retail, in addition to them saying they were going to drive foot traffic. So do you think a greenfielded brand today that doesn't have that consumer awareness online and the reviews can be built at retail instead of being built online first?
Yeah, so that goes into like this whole private brand and private label, because I think first define that, right? So what you're describing in a lot of ways is like a private brand or a private label. Private meaning nobody actually knows what the hell it is what I call private. Label is different than brand. Like a label you could slap on anything and you could put anything inside of a mattress or a pillow, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just a label. A brand has a promise, right? And this is what I've had these discussions with other people that, it's like, oh, Bedgear is not a brand. Well, we have 225,000 reviews. We get 7,000 reviews a week, 7,000 a week. We get 5,000 emails a week that opt into our marketing. I don't know about you, but at that velocity, we're more of a brand than even I realized, because consumers are snacking on our stuff and they're inviting us to market to them, and they're allowing us to tell people how they like our product. And how do we do it? Because we're consistent. We have a brand promise. If our retailers won't take back a product because it didn't fit them, we will call the retailer and actually work out and get the customer back to be refit for a pillow and a mattress. Who else does that? As opposed to, I'm sorry, it's used, we won't take it back. Well, for the amount of times people call you, take it back. We'll donate it to somebody. We're making enough margin where we can satisfy the customer. They're telling you it doesn't fit them. That's the kind of customer you want coming back to your store, because they want to get it right? So we just do bad things in our industry. So what I mean by that is that if I'm going to build a brand, I have to have a promise. If my promise doesn't align with my marketing, my product, and my sales process, I'm not a brand. I'm just a salesperson. I'm a wholesaler. So I always like to tell people, Bed Bath & Beyond, the thing that's being read in Harvard Business Reviews or studies that they'll do, it's been said 100 times already on the Wall Street Journal. They failed because of their private label and private brand strategy. Target is now bringing brands in to pillows and so forth. Walmart brought Tempur-Pedic pillows into Walmart. Why are they doing this? Because you can't have a label that a store has without a brand that creates the umbrella and the promises. So some customers may trade down or trade up to a private label because it's good enough for what they want, but you need to have that balance. So in our space, it's relevant because people are like, oh, I'll just buy pillows, I'll put my own name on them, I'll buy sheets, I'll buy blankets. So think about ingredients marketing. You get into a Mercedes and you look on the speaker and it tells you it's, Olls and Bang or Bose or whatever, I was going to say JVC, but that's when you had the old, jailbreak radios you used to pull out. You get into a Porsche, it says Bose. So if you talk to the CEO, which we've been fortunate enough to work with the CEO at Porsche when we built the M3, they were like the impetus of how to get that thing going for us. I asked them, I'm like, why would you put the name Bose on your speaker? Even if they make it, like, who cares? It's a Porsche. It's a $200,000 911. He goes, what do people know about me when it comes to audio? I'm a car company. We make the fast cars, the best cars, performance cars. We want to be with the best products. Bose makes a far better product. Why wouldn't I want to tell the consumer that? So, but my retailers, your retailers, they're like, no. It's got to be all about our brand. Well, if you're not known for 200 plus thousand reviews on $200 pillows that people love, why would you want to scrape all of that to have some white label generic shit that nobody knows you for? Like, if Porsche did that, there'd be no Porsche. So I would love to just wake people up to realize that it's a strategy. You have to have a blend and you have to have a plan or you're going to fail. It's just that simple. So, I take your question more as private label, private brand, and how to start something is become guilty by association. And if you look up if you just go look up ingredients marketing, the whole world has been doing it for years. Our industry doesn't even understand how to adapt that. So I think our industry has the opportunity to do ingredients marketing and start to develop a plan and a strategy on how to go to market, right? So that could be, if I started tomorrow, this is how I would think. It may be a different widget, it may be a different product, but I am not going to come out with the same shit at a lower price. Like, that's just dumb, right? Because now I'm only going to get so much business from somebody and I'm going to lose to somebody else. So that's how I like to think about going to market strategy is, how am I going to be additive? How do I become guilty by association? Like, what do I want to be associated with? And then is my product, do I have a right to win? Like, what's my right to win? If it's just pure price, then you better be a manufacturer, not some import guy from China that's just going to sell it for 5% over cost and until you can't. Like, that's just doing business. That's not building something, right?
You want to talk about the ultimate in ingredients marketing? It's a product that you and I are both passionate about, the mountain bike or cycling in general. I mean, you're talking about, Fox forks and all the different all the different parts and pieces are what give that bike value. The componentry set, everything that goes into it. That's what gives it the value. Not just the frame or the manufacturer saying, this is a Schwinn, this is a Giant, this is a Pivot, this is a Santa Cruz. Like, there's steps up, and that's what makes it more expensive. So we should look this up. I want you to go Google this or put it into ChatGPT. Ingredients marketing.
Yep, it's a thing.
It's a thing. Hey, you're a thing. You're a big deal. You're a great friend to so many people in this industry, including myself. Thank you, Eugene, so much for coming on the Fan Podcast. I know if people want to connect with you, they can head over to LinkedIn, where they can find out more about you, more about Bedgear. Really appreciate you taking time to share your wisdom, your perspective, and sort of how I built this behind Bedgear. And I'm sure there's a lot of other chapters in that book that we didn't get to. So we'll have to have you come back on the pod at some point.
Absolutely. And I just want to, shout out to you, Mark, for what you do for our industry. I'm delighted to see your journey and the fact that you were willing to leave jobs just like me to follow your passion. And I would encourage all of us to recognize that the sum of all of us together working diligently to help consumers see the value that our industry has is to please think about your business. Be innovative. Be additive. Don't be disruptive. Don't just look to replace something else with something cheaper. Push the envelope. Bring us new ideas. The retailers are desperate for it. The consumers are even more concerned about it. And remember, we don't have to be all the same. It's okay to be different. Don't hate on people because we're different. I've lived my whole life different, and I know what it feels like not to be loved at times. But it's okay to be different, and let's enjoy each other. And I look forward to seeing you at your Sleep Summit and Dream Camp. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks so much, Eugene. If you're listening here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to give us a thumbs up or a like. Share this with a friend. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, ladies and gentlemen. my friend Eugene Alletto. Thanks again.